Your shop is trying to kill you. Does it always look like this? Full of dirty air, which makes it hard to breathe? Well, today that stops. Welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to build a shop air filter. Behold, the ultimate dust-devouring, lung-saving DIY workshop air oasis. Clean air starts now. The heart of this beast, a DeWalt 16-inch drum fan, which draws in dirty air and pushes out clean air through 4 MERV 13 filters. I will leave a link in the description to all the items used today. To validate the fluid dynamics and particulate capture efficiency of this apparatus, we must now conduct a highly sophisticated, rigorously controlled scientific evaluation, where we shake dust over the fan. But yeah, it shows it works really good. I will also leave a link in the description to some simple build plans, which include the dimensions of each piece, simple layout, and also a cut list. Now let's build this thing. The basic concept of this is just a standard box comprised of a bunch of picture frames. You have an inner picture frame and an outer picture frame that we'll call the face, and pretty much all the boards are typical. So once you get all your pieces cut up and laid out, we can start assembling. For the inside frame, I utilized pocket holes, which you can see here. Now we'll assemble one of the picture frames by using glue and screws. Once you have your inside frames complete, now we'll start building the outside face. Rather than utilizing pocket holes and screws, we'll simply attach the face right to the frame. Makes it simpler. To make sure that the filter sits appropriately in between the face and the frame, you want an approximate 1 inch overlap on the inside. You'll line up your boards and glue and tack those down with brad nails. One thing to note, while we're using 14-inch by 30-inch by 1-inch MERV 13 filters, that's not their actual dimension. The actual dimension is 13 7/8 by 29 7/8 by 3/4 of an inch thick. And so it makes the opening a little odd, and that's why the measurements of the boards were a 1/16 here or a 1/16 there. But as long as you follow those measurements and make sure that the boards are in the right orientation, the filters will fit perfectly. Once you have all 4 sides completed, with the faces attached to the frame, you can start putting the sides together and making a box. I utilize these 90-degree woodworking clamps to help keep everything aligned and to make it simpler to hold and tack everything in place. So we'll make sure it's lined up, and then we'll tack it in place with some 16 gauge brad nails, and then we'll come back and we'll drill some pilot holes and install some screws for strength. I utilized bar clamps to make sure everything was very snug and everything was at the right angle. Repeat that process until you have all four sides connected, and once you do, you should end up with something that looks like this. Now let's move on to the top and bottom. For the bottom, we will glue and screw, since I don't ever anticipate having to replace that. Place your bottom piece on there carefully so you don't smash your fingers. Get it all squared up. What I like to do is tack down one corner, and then we'll check it again to make sure it's all lined up. Probably could have just used clamps. And then go to town, drill in some pilot holes and screwing the rest of it down. Now we'll start working on the top. So with your top on there and your fan centered where you like it, trace out the fan so you get a nice tight opening. And you want to keep in mind, don't cut the opening to the outer dimension of that fan. You want to leave a nice little lip for that fan to rest on, but not to obstruct the airflow. So with your hole cut out, let's attach the top. And I didn't use any glue here, just in case I needed to replace the top or I got a different fan. This time I got a little smarter and used some clamps to hold down the top. But it still wanted to walk around on me a little bit, so I had to keep fidgeting with it until I got it nice and centered and lined up where I wanted it to be. Once you got it centered and anchored where you want it, drill a bunch of pilot holes and install some more screws. Now everybody's favorite part, sanding. Just give it a little sand to break the corners, nothing special. It's a shop air filter. I'm not trying to win a prize for it. Now we'll add some wheels. With the cabinet flipped upside down for ease of work, we'll add some cleats or mounting blocks to beef up the area where you can attach the screws for the wheels. We'll glue and tack these for right now just to keep them in the right place, and then we'll come back later and install some screws for strength. These are decent cheap wheels that I got from Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description. But they come with a brake, so you want to make sure your foot has access to the brake. So swivel them around and make sure the overhang is just right so you can put your foot on it. Then we'll drill some pilot holes and we'll install some screws. Get the screws in there, but not tight, so you can position the wheel exactly where you want it. And then we'll go back around and we'll slowly tighten them up. Make sure you don't strip them or do this. Mother. That's all right. Just drill a new pilot hole and install a new screw. Move on. It's just a shop piece. We're getting close. Now it's time to add the filters. To keep in line with the cheapest possible route, cheapest possible build we can do, I'm using these 1-inch flush clips. These are kind of used for storm windows or screen doors or things like that, but they're super cheap. I mean, you could go with twist knobs or some fancy clips, but it starts getting really expensive. This was like 15 cents per clip. Now those came with a really cheap screw, and after what I had happen with the wheels, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna use a nice solid wood screw. So get these anchored down and positioned so they don't cover the opening, but when they twist into place, obviously they hold the filter in place. And just screw them in loosely right now, because we'll tighten them back up when we install the filters. So once again, the filter was a 14 by 30 by 1-inch filter, and it's a MERV 13 filter. You could go with a lower MERV rating and probably get a little more airflow out of it. But after testing this thing, I think I made a right choice with the MERV 13. It really pushes air through it. Make sure the filter airflow arrow is pointing out, because the fan is pointing into the box, so obviously we want the air coming out. Go around, twist the clips over the fan and tighten them down. Just tight, just snug. You want to be able to remove this later. And there she is, most of the hard work done. Now it's time to set the fan in position. And what we're gonna use is a little gasket just to help make sure it's nice and sealed up. Now set the fan on top of that and make sure it's centered and positioned exactly where you want it. I made these little hold down feet because once again I'm going cheap. Look like a little rubber ducky. Go ahead and anchor those down tight so they keep the fan where you want it. Once you got them all anchored down, let's take it for a spin. Unlock the brakes and oh yeah, look at that. That should hold up for a while. The fan came with these feet. You don't really have to install them, but I mean, what else am I going to do with them? So let's just put them on. Maybe it'll make another handle. And that's it. You're all done. Now let's see that super scientific gravimetric fluid dynamics diagnostic test again. This time I left the sound on so you guys can really hear the fan. But the video doesn't do it much justice. It's a lot quieter in person than the video does. So I would highly recommend this fan. So 11.1 setting, you can see it's still drawing in a good amount of dust. Bump it up to level 2. Give it a little shake. And look at all that dust being drawn in. Now level 3 really kicks it into high gear. This is probably the setting I would recommend if you were doing all day table saw or routing, but for just normal everyday setting, I'd keep it on 1 just to kind of filter the air out. But look at that dust. Yeah, so I highly recommend this. It's a nice cheap build. Now you could upgrade to some better fans. Cat has a very similar fan. It's way more expensive. And then the cream of the crop is supposed to be the AC Cloud Infinity fan, but that thing's super expensive. It does come with a wireless remote, but I mean, if you're that lazy, then go for it. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.